Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin the funeral service. We ask for those who have a cell phone or pager, if you could turn it to the silent mode. Officiating is Rabbi Shannon Gelman.
Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach ba'atzas v'sha'im u'derech hata'im lo amad u'v'moshav litzim lo yashav kim b'soras Adonai cheftzo u'v'soraso yegeh yomam v'layla v'yake et shasul al page mayim asher piryo yitain bito v'alehu lo yibol v'chol asher yaseh atzliach lo chen harisha'im kim kamotz asher titfen ruach al kein lo yakumu risha'im b'mishpat Chata'im b'adas tzadikim, ki yodeh Adonai derech tzadikim, v'derech reshaim toved. Call for Rabbi Schnall to recite the second kapitel Tehillim.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, b'noz desha yarbitzeni al mei menuchos yina haleni, Nafshi yishovev yancheni v'magli tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begeitz al moves lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecho meshantecha heima yinachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai. Dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi rivaya. Ach tov v'chesed yerdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti beveis Adonai li orech yamim.
Today, in the height of our simcha of Hanukkah, we gather to mourn the loss of an incredible woman, Dr. Gail Ann Berger Darlow, Zichrono Livracha, Gila Chana Bas Chaim Shlomo, wife of Craig, mother of Emily, Sophie, and Aaron, and devoted daughter of Marilyn and Stu Berger, sister of Nora and Matthew Koenig, Rebecca and Rabbi Eitan Schnall, the late Michael Berger, cherished daughter-in-law of Linda Dechtenberg, an aunt to many nieces and nephews, and dear friend to many. We will hear today from those who knew her best, though it's only a small sampling of the countless family members and friends who are worthy of speaking about Gail and whose lives she touched so profoundly. I ask you to call your attention to the screen as we hear from Rabbi Reuven Brand, Rosh Kolel of the YU Talmud Tzion Kollel, and someone who had one of the most admirable and remarkable relationships with Gail as a student and a colleague, and please give him your attention.
Before we begin, if I could ask everyone to please take out your cell phone. Open your cell phone to the notes section of your phone, where you jot things down. If you have your cell phone there, you're ready. Even though Gail, Aliyah Hashalom, she liked some research from 2014 called the iPhone effect, the quality of in-person social interactions in the presence of mobile devices. Please take your cell phone and jot down, before we begin, 5 values, 5 midos, 5 qualities that you saw in Gail. She once shared a periodic table of midos: courage, confidence, community-mindedness, kindness, compassion, loyalty, modesty, humility. Please just take a moment and write down 5. Now please put away that phone and turn our attention to Gila Chana. Today is the 3rd day of Hanukkah. And Jewish law prohibits eulogies during the celebratory period. The Gesher Chaim, the classic halachic work, notes that even someone of masim tovim, of great actions, it's not permitted to deliver eulogies. But the Shulchan Aruch has one exception. The Code of Jewish Law writes, Ein maspidim b'Chanukah, we do not eulogize on Chanukah, ella chacham b'fanav, except for a chacham, a person of wisdom. In the Talmudic origin, the language is a Talmud Chacham. Gail Zichrono Livracha was in the halachic category of a Talmud Chacham, a Jewish scholar, a student, a teacher, a role model, and a guide. And so we are here to deliver words of hesped, of eulogy, a kavod achron for Gila Chana Bas Reb Chaim Shlomo. I ask forgiveness from Gail for the inadequacy of my remarks due to our limited time frame. But permit me to share a few remarks about Gail, on behalf of Gail, and to Gail. Gail was a wife, a mother, a daughter, a friend, a student, and one of her most prized accolades, a teacher. She loved her family and constantly attended to them, was concerned about their well-being, her parents and her children. She loved learning, was often seeking new opportunities for Talmud Torah, for Torah study, and she really loved teaching. She loved bringing out the best in her students, her program participants, and clients. And she used these skills, which she honed over countless late nights fueled by Dunkin' coffee in her office, to help many worthy organizations in a humble and unassuming way. She loved skiing with her dad and hanging out with her kids. She loved research about the odds of poker and obscure articles about decision-making processes. She loved Israel and the Kotel even from afar. She loved an Erev Shabbos kumzitz and a ruach-filled davening in shul. She was respected and beloved. And Gail lived on a different plane, on a different level. And we were privileged to witness this greatness. The past 3 years, it did not change Gail. It simply enabled her to deliver to us an in-person master class in spiritual greatness, her greatest role as a teacher. In the Jewish tradition, many of us have a custom to attach our names, our Jewish names, our Hebrew names, to a particular verse that appears in the Bible, in the Tanakh. Gail's names, Gila Chana, corresponded to 2 verses. A verse in the book of Tehillim, of Psalms, and of Mishlei, of Proverbs, from Eshes Chayil. The first verse that begins with the letter Gimel and concludes with the letter Hey for Gila is Gol al Hashem darkecha ubetach alav v'hu ya'aseh. Turn to Hashem, to God, in your path, and trust in Him, and He will do. The second verse begins with a ches and ends with a hey. Chogra be'oz mosneha v'ta'ametz roseha. She girded herself with strength and might and courage in her arms. These dimensions characterized Gail's extraordinary life and the inspiration that she demonstrated to us. She lived a life of faith. She turned toward God at every juncture, even during dark times. And she demonstrated superhuman strength. Despite physical suffering that most of us cannot even imagine, she marshaled the emotional and physical strength to live her values. She blended these two qualities of emunah, of fealty to God, and chizuk, of inner strength, to teach her children, her friends, and our entire community what a spiritual life looks like. She was a spiritually goal-oriented person. And so every experience was an opportunity for growth, like pushing herself to write a book of values for her children and for generations that received a magnificent haskama and approbation from the Gaon Rav Yosef Tzvi Rimon Shlita. This was true of Gail, Ben Adam Lachavero, in interpersonal actions, and Ben Adam Lamakom, between her and God. Ben Adam Lachavero, interpersonally, when she was in Sloan Kettering in New York City, she had roommates. She was always kind and sensitive to the dignity and the needs of her roommates. When she found out that there was a large number of children on the 10th floor in MSK who had been staying there for treatment, many of them from Israel, she petitioned the nurses that they should please let her go up to the 10th floor to visit them, to give them chizuk. She was very careful about gratitude and to thank people for even the smallest gestures. Like there was a guy who once transported her in a hospital from one place to the other, and she expressed in her way the profound gratitude that she felt for this gesture. And the man said to her that appreciation made his whole day. This was true, Bein Adam Lamakom, the way that she related to God. There were times in the hospital that were difficult for her concentrating, focusing. And what was her concern? Her concern was, would she be able to daven? How could she fulfill the daily mitzvah of prayer? And so even though she couldn't recite all the words, she could fulfill Maimonides, the Rambam's shorthand version of tefillah, of praise, of request, and of thanks. Praise, request, and thanks of Hashem. That's what she did, because that's who she was. She loved hosting Amen parties and saying Asher Yatzar even when it was taxing in different ways. She shared her emunah with others, using a women's learning group as a vehicle for her to express her Torah knowledge and her deep, abiding faith, often accompanied by her fun, spiritual swag, like a pair of socks that said Derech Hashem, the feet, the way of God, which was her way. She was constantly in search of new mitzvos, new ways to grow in her connection with Hashem through her observance. When she made the transition home these past weeks, she accepted upon herself a new mitzvah to cover her hair even at home, another mitzvah opportunity. Gol al Hashem darkecha ubetach alav v'hu yaseh chagra ba'oz masneha v'ta'amed siroseh. The faith and strength. This is just a tiny brief glimpse of Gail, Zichrona Livracha, about Gail. On behalf of Gail, Birshus, Craig, you are and will forever be the world to Gail. You did everything for her in your determined, quiet, and unassuming way. You left no pebble unturned and were there for her, Emily, Sophie, and Aaron at every waking and not waking moment. Every gratitude exercise she did, every reflection conversation she had, it began the same way. How amazing Craig is. Emily, Sophie, Aaron, your mom adored you. She tried always to do the best for you and was deeply proud of each of you in your own world, in your own space. Rebecca, she was so deeply thankful of the Herculean efforts that you made to always be present and support her, even convalescing in your home. She loved learning with you and was never jealous of your airline status. Nora, her indefatigable advocate, your immediate, constant support with your blend of medical expertise and eternal big sister love from the first moments of Sukkot in 2022 until these last ones was a gift of a life that Gail cherished. Mr. and Mrs. Berger, Gail always thought about you, AKA she worried about you, and wanted to make you proud. Look at the girls you have raised, b'siyata d'shmaya, jewels in your crown that shine even in today's darkness. And now everyone, please take out your phone and please pick one value that you wrote down. Now, if Gail were doing this exercise in her cruel way, she would smile and say, please cross out the 3 bottom ones. We won't do that. Just pick one. Pick one of the values that you saw lived by Gail. And now open your calendar on your phone and pick a date. Maybe it's going to be Gail's birthday, May 10th, which is the first of Sivan. Maybe it's her shloshim, maybe it's her yahrzeit, maybe it's just a random day. And put in your calendar to B'li Neder, live one day with Gail's value, Le'iloi Nishmas Gilachana Bas Chaim Shlomo. And finally, to Gail, L'chi b'shalom, go in peace. You accomplished. You did it. You beat cancer, a theme we all saw, because you believe that winning and losing a battle with cancer has nothing to do with a lifespan. Your emunah taught that a person lives as long as Hashem Yisbarach gives us. And cancer is a challenge. And you showed that you would take on this challenge and it would not dim your spirit. You showed the rest of us that we can live Hashem's values, our values, even in the most difficult circumstances. You taught your children what an authentic Torah life looks like. You made the wonderful people in your life, your family and friends, feel special. And you will be with Grandma New York. The Gemara says, the Talmud teaches us in Moed Katan, Bachu la'avelim v'lo la'aveda, shehi l'menucha va'anu la'anacha. Cry for the mourners and not for the lost one, because she is for rest and we are bereft. Craig, the kids, your friends, and your community, we are all bereft. We ask you to plead with the Ribono Shel Olam, your confidant, to bless your children, your family, your community, and all of Am Yisrael with strength, togetherness, and peace. And finally, we thank you. We express our gratitude, Hakaras Hatov, one of your hallmark values. We thank you for the gift you gave all of us, your legacy of inspiration. Bila hamoves lanetzach umacha Adonai Elohim timami al kol panim.
Call upon Gail's sister Nora to share some reflections.
To my dear sister Gail, Gail Ann Berger Darlow, a name that you were so proud of who you were and where you came from. In the way that you always lived your life, it was with much gratitude. You would want me to thank the community far and wide for all that they have done: Tehillim, meals, rides, visits, learning, and much, much more. Thank you to Craig for treating Gail like a queen and taking such wonderful care of her over the last 20 years. Over the past 3 years, you made the cancer journey as comfortable for Gail as possible. We are forever grateful. Mommy and Daddy, please always remember how much Gail loved you both. Gail embodied all of your wonderful characteristics. She was kind, sensitive, smart, thoughtful, and had an emunah in Hashem that was so strong. Gail, along with Rebecca and I, have learned from you what a home filled with love and Judaism is all about. And I know that Emily, Sophie, and Aaron have seen that in their own home. Emily, Sophie, and Aaron, you were your mother's jewels. Your mother was not about anything fancy. She had a heart of gold and carried that in everything she did. Always remember that Jama and Boo, the Schnalls, and the Koenigs will always be there for you. And our greatest pleasure will be reminiscing about your mom. What most of you already know about me is that I am Gail's older sister and an oncology nurse. But what most of you don't know is that I was given the best gift from Hashem to be able to have a deep understanding of Gail's life over the last 3 years. It was almost like we had a secret code. I am not quite sure what I am going to do without my code partner. Gail was always the smart sister. She excelled in school, got her PhD in organizational behavior, was a professor at Northwestern, and did consulting work at Medvick and Associates. One of her many accomplishments was writing a book, Unraveling Dualities, partially while an inpatient at Sloan Kettering. Gail, you inspired people before and after your diagnosis. You showed us how to be brave when it was most difficult. Without a complaint, you never missed a beat. You were always top of the game, even when it was an uphill battle. Speaking of hills, one of your favorite activities was skiing, and with the best ski partner, Daddy. You both skied Black Diamond Slopes in Jackson Hole, Colorado, and Utah. Gail, you had a fond admiration for the YU Kollel and for Rabbi Brand and the Kollel rabbis. I was lucky enough to hear you present the incoming Kollel rabbis with their opening presentation. I was so proud to be your sister. You also participated in several classes and learning programs, which was a passion of yours and inspired so many along the way. Gail, your smile was radiant like you were. Your inner beauty shined through everything that you did. Gail, our family has truly lost its glowing gem. The light of our lives just got dimmer. We will use all of the amazing attributes that you lived your life with to guide us through this difficult path without your physical being by our side. We will miss you and love you very much.
Call upon Gail's oldest, Emily, to share some words.
Everyone who's ever met my mom knows
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Deep breath. Breathe out. It's okay. You got it. Breathe out.
everyone who has met my mom knows just how amazing of a human being she was. Her strength and emunah was so profound, it's always been hard for me to grasp. These past 3 years, seeing how much she's gone through and seeing how grateful she was to Hashem through all of it really has been a privilege for me to see and me to learn from. I kept thinking yesterday, shortly after she passed, how hard it was that I lost her so soon, and how short of a time I had with her. And I talked to my little brother, Aaron, and he said, I'm so grateful for the 13 years I got with her. And he's so right, because she did more for me in 18 years than I think anyone else could have. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do from here on out. So the only thing I pray for is that I can have an ounce of her strength and courage, bravery, gratitude, and emunah on Hashem to get me through this without her. I'm grateful for everyone who was there for her, for Tehillim, for meals, to my aunts, to my grandparents, to all my cousins who've been there, and to my dad who was with her every single second, who slept every night in the hospital with her by her side. I've learned so much from both of them. And the pain I'm going to experience from missing my mom so much from now on, I've still learned so much from her, and she's given me more than I could have ever asked for. Mommy, I love you. And I miss you so much already. Everything I do from here on out is going to be for you. Even if I don't get a PhD like you did. I'm still going to dedicate it all to you. When I go back to seminary, I'm going to learn for you. And in college, go to nursing school, and I'm going to help people. And I know you were very picky about your nurses, so I hope I can be a good one. And I hope you'll look down on me and be proud of me. I love you so much, and thank you for everything you've done for me.
On behalf of Rebecca, call up her husband, Rabbi Eitan Schnall, Gail's brother-in-law, the Rabbi of Young Israel Hillcrest, and a Rebbe in Yeshiva University BMP program.
Everything that was said so far are words that we all know to be true because we knew Gail. I'm going to try to add a little bit of the relationship that I had with her on behalf of Rebecca, on behalf of our children who are here, who are in New York, who are in Eretz Yisrael, who, Gail, I can honestly say, they loved their Auntie Gail, and it was mostly because on the sidelines. I noticed that when they would walk in the room, when we came for a visit, when we came for a Shabbos Chanukah, your eyes would brighten in a way that made each one feel, at whatever age they were, like $1,000,000. And they felt the love that you had towards them. And I represent also my parents, who I think I can honestly say took to you and fell in love with you as immediately and as quickly as they did with Rebecca at about the same time, 20 years ago. And over the last number of years, have thought about you and asked about you, reached out and davened to you constantly every single day, and loved you together with the rest of us. The many things, Gail, that we discussed were things that gave an opportunity for me to learn from you. And there was one theme that we often return to, even as recently as about 2 weeks ago when I visited you at the hospital. And that was the bracha of Asher Yotzer that Rabbi Brand mentioned earlier, which became a mission of yours to help people understand how much we have to appreciate every moment of chesed, the simple kindness of the way Hashem keeps our body healthy, running properly, and how each day of that blessing is so invaluable and needs to be appreciated. And so many homes with Asher Yasser plaques with your name written on them, hanging on their walls, have transformed. Families who recite that bracha with a little more meaning and a little more thoughtfulness, as is the case in our home, thanks to you. And while you focused on the way the bracha talks about how our bodies are miracles, you inspired me to think about the very beginning of the bracha as well. Asher Yatzar es ha'adam, created man. What do we know about man? Adam is known to us on the pages of Chumash and Rashi as the very first individual who could daven, who could communicate with Hashem. God actually would not allow the world of agriculture and plants and colorful trees and whatnot to grow until there was someone who could recognize the need for the rain to bring it down, to allow that to all grow. That was Adam, to create that intersection of communication with Hashem. But it also represented something deeper. Adam comes from the word Adama, from the earth, not just as a point of reference of substance, but because through the prism of Torah, Adama represents the rain that comes down to nurture it as a metaphor of the way that Hashem showers down His blessing on us, which was literally the recognition almost in every other sentence in your conversations with other people. And you saw yourself, and you told me this, as someone who would stand at the intersection of Shamayim va'aretz, reaching up towards Hashem to bring Him a little bit closer, like the rain comes down to our world. And you did so because on your lips was constantly, Hashem, Hashem, thank you, Hashem, in such a natural and deep and sincere way that we all felt inspired and wanted to be better people and closer to Hashem when we were with you. The many, many conversations of halacha, questions that you would ask, that we would discuss, you never wanted the answer to be, it's okay. You wanted the answer to be, it's right, it's the ideal. Because you wanted to bring Hashem down to our world. But you did it in one other way. As many conversations as we had about halacha, we had conversations reviewing divrei Torah that you wanted to share, whether it be to a class, whether it be other opportunities in shul, or your book, which anyone who's read the book knows. You can hardly turn the page without another footnote to a pasuk in the Chumash or Tanakh, because you felt that part of bringing that rain down to our world, that recognition of Hashem into our planet, is making sure that Torah infused every interaction, even though your interactions were in the world of business and negotiations, the professional world that you touched and moved and changed. You wanted Hashem to be a part of every single one of those interactions. And you did it so successfully and so naturally and genuinely. And so many conversations we had about how to expose the wisdom of Hashem to everyone who would come in contact with the chesed that you tried to offer to them and did so successfully. Thank you, Gail, for showing us, our children, what it means to live with Hashem very, very close at every moment of life. We will miss you so much. And together with that book that Gail wrote, the next book has to be a book that teaches a spouse how to be as dedicated and devoted as Craig has been. In my tefillos, Gail, of late, I asked not only for your health and nachas, but I asked Hashem for another day of Kiddush Hashem. Because Gail, who you were, together with Craig, the devotion and mutual chesed and appreciation is also the Asher Yatzar Es HaAdam, as we say under the chuppah, the coming together of a neshama. And it's hard to describe in any other more concrete way what it means to have a single neshama fused between a husband and wife, completely devoted and dedicated to each other. Just close by adding, for mom and dad, but for Emily and Sophie and Aaron, we live far away. We know exactly how many miles between, but you know, Rebecca and I and our children, we love you so much, so much. To say that we're with you is just a cliche, but to say that we feel that together we will always share the love and inspiration that your mother has given to us and to the entire community is how we join our neshamas with you together and daven Tehei Nishmas Tzura B'Sor HaChaim. That may HaKadosh Baruch Hu bring the neshama of Gail to the highest heights in the same way that she showed us how to bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu down to our world.
Gail was a force of goodness, of wisdom, and of light. One of the very last things she did in this world was to light the Hanukkah candles. May have been her last mitzvah. There's a well-known discussion in the Gemara, Hadlaka osa mitzvah, Hanacha osa mitzvah. How do we fulfill the commandment of lighting the Hanukkah candles? Is it by lighting them, by kindling them, or is it by placing them down? And we rule Hadlaka osa mitzvah. That the lighting of the candle is what performs the mitzvah, the lighting itself. So you may wonder, what difference does it make? So the Gemara teaches that if a person lights a candle properly, with the capacity to burn for the requisite amount of time, and it's later extinguished, even prematurely, the mitzvah has already been fulfilled. In the Gemara's language, kavsa ein zakukla. That if the candle goes out, one need not relight it. Sometimes candles possess all the potential in the world. They burn brightly, powerfully, and then they're extinguished far too soon, before we expected it, before we were ready. And yet the law teaches us that once the flame has been lit, once the act has been done, its purpose continues, even after the light itself is no longer visible. Near Gail's Shabbos candles, and right beside her family's Chanukiot, there are two small, profound reminders of this truth. One is a photograph of Grandma in New York we've heard about, family matriarch, who was blessed with Arichos Yamim, one of Gail's greatest inspirations and the family's inspiration. And the other is a small collection of handwritten notes the family placed there yesterday, containing tefillos, dreams, whispered hopes committed to paper. Gail lived with a resolute faith that the Ribbono Shel Olam reads those prayers, he answers them. She knew that the place for reflection, for speaking to Hashem, for transmitting values to her children and her family was by those candles. And that's why Erev Shabbos was such an important moment in your home, candle lighting time. Perhaps Gail understood something Chazal were teaching us all along, that kavsa ein zakuk la. That if I do my part, if I light the flame, even if it goes out earlier, that's enough. If I may share a personal reflection, studying together each week earlier on in my Rabbanis, my classes at Emma's, I came to look forward to Gail's insights, to the conversations that preceded this year, she would come early, and afterwards that followed this year. They ranged widely from her work to the world of academia, psychology, and always updates about her beloved family and children. It feels now like a lifetime ago. And from time to time, we invited Gail to speak in the shul, sharing her unique expertise, conflict resolution, compromise, the art of navigating difficult conversations. More times than I can count, I leaned on Gail during complicated moments in my own life. Gail, you were so wise, steady, poised under pressure, unfazed by surrounding noise. She would often say that when people argue or negotiate, I'll never forget this lesson, there are three paths. You can push by brute force, you can insist, I deserve this by right, or you can take the third route, which is you could speak honestly about needs and values. That third path, she taught, was that which brings people together and moves the conversation forward. To have a congregant and a friend of such depth and importance, someone who could offer that level of insight and counsel was a privilege. And yet it also leaves me feeling inadequate. I could never truly give back what I feel she gave to me and to us. But Gail took the Torah she learned, the ideas, the source sheets every time, whether it's a shiur from the kollel or a shiur in the shul, or something she was working on with her brother-in-law, and she put it into her writing and into her thinking. Time and time again, we would hear how a single idea from a shiur, like a little flame, expanded and became the seed of an entire lecture. Lucky student she had in Kellogg. A small light kindled in a Jewish home spreads outward to illuminate the world. And that light was present from the very beginning. As we heard, she was born May 10th, 1975. Her name, Gila, an expression of gladness and rejoicing, could not have been more fitting. Shortly before she was born, the Bergers had another child named Michael Avraham, who passed away tragically within a week of his birth. To quote Stewart, who knows if that hadn't happened, though, whether we would have been blessed with Gail. Kadosh Baruch Hu has interesting ways of working things that we don't understand. But Gail paved the way for her own children. She attended Hillel Torah, Ida Crown Jewish Academy like they did. As a young child, through adulthood, she made lifelong friends who were as close to her as blood relatives. She matriculated at Boston University. She studied education in Loyola, and then Kellogg, where she studied organizational behavior and earned her doctorate. We learned about her impressive academic and professional accomplishments from previous maspidim, but I'll add that her brilliance wasn't limited to an ivory tower. She ran leadership programs, both in school and out. She advised others, professional development. She taught and helped organize programs in rabbinic leadership. I'm a proud graduate of one of those first cohorts. She was encouraged by her grandma in New York to sign up for J-Date, who got her a membership for her. And there she met another Kellogg alum, Craig. Greatest decision of her life. Soon to be husbands, they fell in love. They were married 2005 by Rabbi Zev Shandaloff of KGBS. Gail and Craig started out in Lakeview. They moved to Skokie 2 years later, and they were blessed with Emily and then Sophie and then Aaron. Craig and the three children were and remain the great loves of her life. How many conversations behind the scenes did she talk about, you as Rabbi Brand reflected? She thought about you constantly and selflessly gave of herself to you. Aaron and Sophie reflected on various travels they had with their mother, whether it was going on business trips together or attending work. It's hard to fully appreciate who your mother was, especially when you're young, which explains why Aaron claims that he fell asleep during the entire lecture that she attended. And yet, you haven't read the book, which you promised me you will read one day. I'll just share anecdotally that when I saw your mother about a week and a half ago in the hospital, she was so courteous and she apologized because she had to take a medication which was going to knock her out cold. And she said, I'm going to fall asleep in a second. I apologize. I said, Gail, you're just like all my other congregants now. Don't worry. But one day you're going to reflect and read that wisdom and learn from it and recognize how incredibly blessed each of you are. I'm sure you already know. Sophie holds the trip to New York near and dear to her. I'll never forget how Mom took her to see Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway, and Aaron's solo trip on the ferry boat and the Statue of Liberty. And I want you to think about moments and moments like that and hold those in your heart forever. The one trip that didn't come to fruition to Israel was supposed to happen a few months ago. But Gail, you're in good company, because Moshe Rabbeinu also tried to make a trip to Israel. But he did something greater. In what would be seen on the outside as a moment of defeat, he paved the way for all of Klal Yisrael to cross the Jordan, to enter Israel. Now Emily, studying in Israel, going back to Israel soon, deepening her love for Torah, for Eretz Yisrael, because your parents walked you to the border of the river and helped you make that happen. It's not what happens after you light the candle. It's that you light the candle and you see what happens next. Emily recalled so fondly the ski trips that she shared with her mother and Boo, speaking with admiration about the way Gail would fly down most challenging slopes in Denver, Utah, as we heard about, confidence and grace. Skiing, such a cherished tradition they shared multiple generations now. One can only imagine for you, Stuart, how precious those memories are and what you built together on the mountaintop. Moments of joy, of partnership, of father and daughter, those are with you forever. That same sense of commitment shaped the home that you built, Gail, for your daughters. I'm told that this goes back generations also. Stuart used to bring the girls to shul every day, always careful to arrive on time, modeling quietly, consistently, that dedication to tefillah and community and what it truly looks like, how it continued so many months into her illness, very much near the end, how every single day watching Nora and Gail come to shul, and then when Gail couldn't anymore, Nora was there holding the weight. The only women in the shul those days. We looked at you for inspiration. We still do. This is a family that shares those values broadly. Family models devotion to shul, to community, to kolim. Together with Craig, Gail, you have been leaders here for so many years. You've shaped our growth in ways visible and unseen. You've always stepped forward. You never said no. You were never too busy. How many times, Craig, when you're holding up the fort at home for your wife, for your children, and someone sends you an email and you're like, sure, I'll respond and do it. How much more can you handle? You're a real hero to us. And for all of that, the most powerful modeling is reflected in the light that each of you children carry forward. Aaron shared that that light expresses itself in the form of leadership. When I asked you, what value do each of you connect to the most of your mothers? What trait? You said leadership. I would add selflessness also. Just recently, I don't know, you don't want to brag about this, but I'll brag for you. Aaron was named as color war captain. The circumstances changed because within a few hours he couldn't fulfill that responsibility. He quietly appointed a successor. A small moment, but profound reflection of values you learn at home. Selflessness. I know how much you guys have had to miss because of what's going on, and that's not easy. And our hearts go out to you. Emily, she reflected on the fact that it was her mother's strength that she sees in her. Instinct to put others first. Emily shared that Even after Gail became ill, her first concern was always those around her. It's almost impossible to believe that during a night when you were the one in the hospital and she was not well enough, she insisted on staying there with you. That's the kind of mother she was. And Sophie, with a smile, I asked her what you got from your mother, and she said, I got her temper. Which is to say, Gail's passion. So rabbis have to put a spin on it. Her ability to care deeply, to feel fully, to experience life with intensity and heart. That, too, is a legacy of light. And there's one last bond that carries extraordinary strength in Gail's life, and one we've heard about and reflected upon today, the bond of siblings. It is evident in the tireless dedication of Nora and Rebecca, the love and support of your remarkable spouses and your parents, but siblings in particular speak to a remarkable closeness and intimacy. In Shir HaShirim, description of the deepest and most complete form of love uses the language of siblings. Pitchi li achoti rayati yonati tamati. Open up for me, my sister, my beloved, my dove, my perfect one. The language of closeness without conditions, a love that predates words and endures beyond them. And so, Nora and Rebecca, and your wonderful spouses, you're not only siblings, you are now guardians of each other's hearts. You have each other and you stand with each other. If I can offer you, if it is a measure of comfort, Gail is not alone. We heard that she's reunited with her grandmother, and I learned from Stuart that Michael's yurtzeit is actually this evening, on Hanukkah, 48 hours from Gail's Patira. She's been handed off from one pair of siblings to another sibling. Maybe that sibling she never met but helped usher her into this world in some way. Now he's all grown, and I can only imagine that reunion, the first embrace, and how full it must be. It's through the voice of the sister that Shir HaShirim gives us a final image, with which I'd like to close. Basi legani achoti kala, arisi mori im besami, achalti yari im divshi, shasisi yeni im chalavi. I've come to my garden, my sister, my bride. I've gathered my myrrh and my spice. I drank my wine and my milk. The siblings calling to one another, maybe to a sister, to a brother, to a spouse, to a family. And we declare, I've made it to my garden. I've made it to paradise. I've arrived in a place where I'm no longer in pain. I arrived to a place safely. And I want you to know from the other side that I'm all right. She's saying, please take my teachings, take my legacy, take my little Hanukkah licht, the one that maybe didn't last that long, and take that life of light, the one lit with kavanah, with love, with shared generosity. And as Chazal taught us, kavsa ein zakukla. Flame can go out, but it is a ner tamid. It is forever with us. May her light continue to shine through her children, her family, this community. May Gail's memory be a blessing. Gail, we're going to miss you very much. I'd like to call upon to say the final Tehillim, because today is Hanukkah. We don't do the regular Kelmalei. Rabbi Menachem Linzer, principal of Hillel Torah, dear friend of the family. Oh, it's Craig speaking. Apologize. You're coming next. Okay. 1 minute. It's my privilege to call upon Craig to share some words and to end the Hespedim for today.
Thank you, Rabbi Gelman. Before I start, Sophie just wanted me to ask wanted me to let people know that she's not a big hugger. So, see, you asked me, I tell, so they know. I got that out of the way. Everyone spoke so beautifully. Rabbi Brand, Rabbi Gelman, Rabbi Schnall, Nora, Emily, so impressive. You should know I was standing up here with Emily, and she had her phone with her notes, and something must have gone wrong with her notes. All that was displayed on her phone was the very first line for the whole time. The rest was either from memory or off the cuff. I was standing there in disbelief. So it's very, very impressive. You are your mother. Sorry, I don't usually like to read from a paper, but that's the only way this is going to happen. Baruch Dayan Hemet. Thank you all for being here to honor Gail and to support our family. Gail lived with an unusual combination of strength, faith, and gratitude. And I want to say that carefully because those words can sound generic, but with Gail, they were real. They were practiced daily, even when most people had no idea what she was carrying. There were episodes over these last few years that many people didn't know about, emergencies that were frightening, moments where we didn't know what the next hour would bring. I don't need to list everything today, but I do want you to understand something about how she approached each day. After one of these crisis moments, after being intubated for 2 weeks, the first week mostly unconscious, waking every few hours to fear and confusion. And the second week mostly awake, but unable to speak, communicating only by writing or simple signs. When the tube was finally removed and she could speak again, one of the first things that Gail said was, why is Hashem so good to me? Not why is this happening or this isn't fair. And it wasn't denial. Gail wasn't naive. She knew exactly what she was up against. But she made a decision again and again to live with emunah and gratitude in what she called the messy middle. In her book, she wrote about how life can exist in that in-between place, and how even a cancer diagnosis can somehow coexist with gratitude and meaning. One thing Gail would want us to do today is be grateful. Not because that makes grief go away, and not because gratitude is easy, but because gratitude was part of who she was. In the acknowledgments in her book, she writes that gratitude is central to Judaism and central to her identity, connecting it to the idea of being Yehudim, people defined by giving thanks and praise. So what can we be grateful for even now? A lot of water up here. I gotta know which one's mine. I want to express gratitude for the people who helped carry us through this time. In particular, I'll be just a second, sorry. In particular, Rabbi Gelman and his wife Tzipora, who have been a steady source of guidance, care, and support to our family. And Rabbi Brand and his wife Nechama. Over the last few years, especially these past months, Rabbi Brand became an important part of our lives and a tremendous source of strength for Gail and myself. His presence, his words, and his care meant more than we can properly express. We are also deeply grateful to the many doctors, nurses, and support staff at Memorial Sloan Kettering and at Northwestern, people who cared for Gail with extraordinary skill, compassion, and dedication over these years. Their professionalism, humanity, and kindness meant a great deal to Gail and to our family, and we will always be grateful for the care they gave her. And we are deeply grateful for the community that surrounded Gail and our family. That Team Gail feeling meant a great deal to her. She wrote about the meals, the prayers, the rides, the messages, not to mention the cards, the smoothies, the soups, and how every act of support, no matter how small, gave her strength. She understood something that many of us forget, that letting others help is also a form of giving. It gives others the chance to do mitzvot and to help in a meaningful way. She wrote about learning to step back and allowing that help, and about how many people never truly get to feel how many people care about them. We can be grateful that her final weeks and days were calm and peaceful, not traumatic, and that she was surrounded by family. We can be grateful that we had time together, time to be there for her, time to care for her, to hold her hand, to say the things that matter. We can be grateful for the last 3 years. From the start, Gail said something that stayed with me, that she could have been hit by a bus and that would have been it. But instead, Hashem gave her the opportunity to fight, and so she would fight. And she would live. And she did live. We had a bar mitzvah. We celebrated another family bat mitzvah, Sarah. A family wedding, Adam and Mia. We traveled. She wrote her book. She finished it. In her own words, she saw the ability to write it as part of the gift, even in the middle of treatment. And we can be grateful that she got to see our kids grow into young adulthood and that they got to be raised by her. Emily, Sophie, Aaron, your mom was so proud of you. She didn't just love you, she noticed you. She saw who you were becoming, and she helped shape that with intention. She'll always be part of you. In her acknowledgments, Gail wrote about our family with generosity and love. She was always quick to give credit, encouragement, and gratitude to the people around her. And she wrote about each of you with specific love and pride, how you encouraged her, how you inspired her, and how you kept her strong. That's who she was, someone who paid attention to people. That way of paying attention to people was also at the core of her professional life. As was mentioned before, for over 20 years, Gail was a professor of the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern, where she taught negotiations, team building, culture, and leadership. Later, she developed executive education programs and coaching for leaders and leadership teams. Gail cared deeply about helping others grow and succeed. She created programs that reflected her insight and creativity, including a leadership forum specifically for executive women and an innovative program that used poker to teach strategy, confidence, and decision-making. I often heard from her colleagues and her students about how engaging she was and how much they learned from her. They would say to me, "Gail is amazing, but you already know that, you're married to her." I did know that. She had that same attention to people everywhere in her life. She was always thinking about other people. Birthdays, milestones, who needed a call, who needed a gift, who needed checking in on. She remembered things I honestly don't understand how she kept in her head. Even during these last 3 years when she had every reason to be consumed by her own situation. And she talked to everyone in the hospital. She talked to the nurses, asking where they went to school. She talked to the aides, the transporters, people cleaning the room. Not small talk for the sake of it, but because she genuinely cared and wanted them to feel appreciated. No matter how difficult it may have been for her to talk in many cases. That was one of the many ways we complemented each other. I'm not a big talker. But Gail had a way of connecting to people. She made people feel like they mattered. She made people feel included. She made people feel remembered. Gail and I plan to grow old together. We used to see older couples bickering about something and say, that'll be us someday. She was my other half. We complemented each other. She brought warmth and connection. I brought steadiness and probably too many spreadsheets. And the truth is, I don't have the right words for what it means to lose the person that you shared your life with. But I do know this: Gail gave everything she had to the people she loved, with strength, with faith, with gratitude, and with an ability to make the person in front of her feel like they mattered. Gail, I love you. I miss you. I will see you again. You promised to save me a seat. May her memory be a blessing. May we honor her by living the way she taught, with faith, with gratitude, and with attention to the people right in front of us. Thank you.
Ask that we please rise and call up Rabbi Linzer to recite the Tehillim, Michtam LeDavid.
Michtam LeDavid, Shamreini Yel Ki Chasi Sivach, Amar LaDonai, Adonai Ata, Tovasi Ba'al Olecha, L'Kdoshim Asher Ba'aretz Hema, V'adirei Kol Chefetzi Bam, Yirbu Atzvosam Acher Maharu, Ba'lasich Nischeihem, Mimidam U'Ba'lasai Shmosam, Al Sfasai, Adonai Menas Chelki V'Chosi, Ata Tomich Gorali, Chavalim Naflu Li Banimim, Af Nachalas Shafra Alai, Avareches Adonai Asher Yatzani, Af Leilos Yisruni Chil Yosai, Shivisi Adonai L'negdi Samid, Ki Mimini Ba'alemot, Lachein Samach Libi V'yagel Kvodi, Af Bisari Yishkon Lavetach, Kilos Hazov Nafshi L'shol, Lo Sitein Chasidcha L'rosh Achas, Todi'eni Arach Chaim Sovas Machos Es Panecha, Nimos Bimincha Netzach.
Please be seated.
This includes a funeral here at the chapel. The interment will take place at West Lawn Cemetery. For those who will be going to the cemetery, we'll be lining up in a parking lot. We do ask, if you are not going to the cemetery, even if you are going to the cemetery, to immediately go to your vehicles as the family wants to make it back to the Shiva house for Mincha. So please, at the conclusion of the service, please everybody go immediately to the vehicles and do not congregate in the lobby. The family will be sitting Shiva, the Darlow residence, 9420 Keeler, Shachris every morning at 8 o'clock, Mincha at 4:05. Family requests no visitors between 12:30 and 2:30, 5 and 6 p.m., and after 8 p.m. Those times are on the service folder that you received when you arrived or on the website that you have joined the live stream. The following individuals have been asked to act as pallbearers: Matthew Koenig, Adam Koenig, Aaron Koenig, Rabbi Eitan Schnell, Michael Felix, and Baruch Schnell. If we can all rise and have the pallbearers please come forward.